Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. HB2642 would strengthen the penalties against certain acts of cruelty to animals when they are used to threaten, intimidate, coerce, harass, or terrorize a family or household member, taking the misdemeanor and making it into, first, the class 1 misdemeanor, making it into a class 6 felony. So, folks who harm animals, strangle a dog, shoot a cat, are often very likely to harm individuals. And we find there are a lot of circumstances where people harm animals as a way to commit domestic violence or attack those as well. There's a number of people here who support it. I'll just read the ones that aren't here, and then I'll let you talk to all the folks that are going to support the bill. The Virginia Animal Control Association brings up 3 examples that they are aware of. Just in Chesapeake, a young man had an argument with his living girlfriend. When she left for work, he kicked her 5-year-old puppy to death. In the second case, a man argued with his wife, and to retaliate against her, he stabbed her dog. Third example, a young man argued with his wife. In retaliation, he threw her kitten against a wall, strangled it, and later threw the dead kitten out the car window. The Virginia Alliance for Animal Shelters supports this bill. They write, "What we know by scientific research and common sense is that the cycle of violence experienced in domestic abuse is visited on all members of the family, including companion animals. In many cases, it's the most effective weapon of control because the animal doesn't make a very good witness against the perpetrator, so using it as a tool of threat is extremely effective in keeping the human victims under control." The bill is also supported by the Virginia Veterinary Medical Association that talks about an example, a battered woman's beloved dog was dragged to death behind her former boyfriend's vehicle because she decided to leave him. Now again, these acts of cruelty against animals are already illegal. They are class 1 misdemeanors. What this bill would allow Commonwealth attorneys who do support this bill to charge in the case where there's this animal cruelty plus, quote, the intent to threaten, intimidate, coerce, harass, or terrorize a family or household member, and to charge it as a class 6 felony. My own Commonwealth attorney, Brian Porter, said he could have charged this in 2 cases over the past 5 years. The best part about this bill is not just that it punishes some really horrible people. The best part about this bill is it helps protect people in the future. If you harm an animal with intent to terrorize a family member or an intimate partner, you're very likely to carry through that act. And by putting these folks in jail as a felony, keeping them off the streets, keeping them out of these people's lives, then it's less likely they're going to harm human beings. So I know I have a lot of folks in support of the bill, but I'm happy to answer any questions before they start, or we can break them all up.
For the animals killed, why isn't it already covered?
If you read the section A of the bill, you'll see. So section F is, I can explain the Commonwealth attorney, is a death. Right, that's correct. And section 1 would be, which would be section A, would be folks who, for example, kick a dog within an inch of its life, but it survives, or stab a dog, or shoot a dog, but it survives. So that would make those section A bills into a class 6 felony when combined with the intent to terrorize.
So this would be where they don't die.
I'm sorry?
This would be where they don't die.
Where they don't die, that's correct.
So where were we different where we were last time? I say, well, let's hear your witnesses and then we'll sort through the details. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
I'm Michelle Welch. I am the director of the Animal Law Unit at the Virginia Attorney General's Office. I've been an animal abuse prosecutor for about almost 20 years now.
How many people are in the animal law unit?
I'm only full-time, but I have
Okay.
two that I have a piece of
Gotcha. All right, I
So-
didn't know that existed, but that's
We're,
awesome.
we're busy.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that we support this bill, and Delegate Bell's right, that right now, if you kill the animal, it's a class 6 felony, or if it has to be euthanized as on the basis of your abuse. What this does is if you hurt the animal in order to terrorize or to get back at your domestic violence victim, it makes that a class 6 felony out of the box. Now, I don't think the fiscal impact will be that great because there's not that many cases, but I wanted to highlight about 3 for you. One we had in the middle of Virginia where the victim had enough courage to leave her abuser. She left her terrier dog with him. He threw it in the basement and he starved it to death. So that is obviously a way to get back at her and terrorize her. We had another case where the victim in I think it was Shenandoah area, where she told him to get out. She left the house along with her son. They came back. He had entered her basement and had beaten the beagle to an inch of its life and had to be euthanized. So that's already a class 6 felony, yes, but again, you're using it to terrorize that victim. We had a case in Loudoun County where the young man filmed himself basically using duct tape, and he duct taped the cat, and he sat there and he taunted his victim. The cat lived, and he then punched her and basically broke her nose. We have Alexandria here, and they have a case where the man strangled the kitten and broke its leg on video, sent it to his victim. Less than 24 hours later, he stabs her to death. So it's needed. They use the animal to terrorize their victims, and this should be a class 6 felony in and of itself. And so I ask you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm Sarah Taylor, members of the committee. I'm Sarah Taylor with the City of Alexandria. This bill came out of a work group that we held in the city where we tried to get domestic violence, cops and courts together to come up with real practical solutions that would make it better for law enforcement as well as for advocates to intervene and to prosecute domestic violence cases. And this is one of the proposals that came out of this. The language comes out of Indiana. It's not unique language to this proposal. But what we found through talking about the cops and courts and domestic violence advocates is that too often animal abuse cases are masked in misdemeanors or lesser charges. This can inhibit the ability of social workers or advocates or even law enforcement to identify individuals who are animal abusers, provide early intervention strategies and services to the victim, and keep them from escalating to aggressive behavior towards the humans in their lives, as opposed to the proxy abuse of the animal. As she mentioned, the incident that we had in Alexandria was very clear. The man injured the animals, threw them out the window. Someone called 911 because it was an animal abuse case. They brought him in. It was a misdemeanor. He wasn't kept. He went home and literally walked in the door and stabbed his girlfriend to death. So that was the example that we have. But we found there's a number of examples across the state. But we think this is a very narrow bill. We think it addresses a very clear problem. We think it creates a legal nexus to the connection between domestic violence and animal cruelty. Creates a legal nexus where there's already a nexus in data and what we've seen. So we hope you will support the bill. And
Okay,
we
I think we do. So, and I'm passing that on to everybody who's behind you, that I think we're in good shape. We just need to get the words right, and just anything you'd like to add would be great.
I'm just going to quickly add then that I'm with the Virginia SPCA, and I've also been asked by the Humane Society of the United States and the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies to share with you that we're all in support of the Delegate bill.
Great, thank you.
John Puglisius with the Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance. We support the bill.
This is Sheila Berkey from Virginia Poverty Law Center, and we support the bill as well.
Thank you. I'll Charlie like it because I'm just kidding. No.
Mr. Chairman, Mike is Executive Director of the Animal Return Association, and we've already included anti-domestic animals in the protected order.
Yeah, okay.
And
For the same reason, I mean.
Absolutely.
Good idea, so, okay. Let's look at the words. Threaten, intimidate, coerce, harass, terrorize. Didn't we have some issue with some of this the other day? Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, the words terrorize and threaten do not appear in other code sections where we use the same words. We use the words coerce, intimidate, and harass in that order 5 times in the code to get to this sort of behavior. And harass, coerce, intimidate, I believe would cover everything that we need. And it doesn't add any additional language. And adding the additional language is the fear that some court will interpret that it requires extra proof beyond what normally coerce, intimidate, harass means. So I would suggest that we strike the words terrorize and threaten and just use in this order coerce, intimidate, and harass.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed. That amendment is adopted. Anything else, Counsel?
No, sir.
Okay. Chairman, report. Delegate Levine's report. Delegate 9 seconds. Please cast your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, for the clerk, that's gonna have to be a substitute because that correction's in fact.
Okay, we anticipated that there was a fiscal impact. That's part of where we are, so. All right, we will recommend the report. Thank you, Delegate. Delegate.